Thanks for the opportunity to speak here. I guess I should say I kind of stumbled into this accidentally. I didn't set out to make mugs. Um, I, I've worked in IT for a long time. I do various IT things like websites, some social media, etc. And it evolved out of I put together a design to promote the local area where I live, the shops and the businesses within it. I live in Sheffield, and there's a lot of these little local areas around Sheffield, which have great independent shops and are fantastic and vastly different to the chains you see in most towns and cities. And sort of little local people running these shops have done for years, etc. And I put together this design for this local area, and I wanted someone else to make a mug of it. I chatted to the shopkeepers; they loved the idea. I'd got permissions to use logos, etc. And it took many months, and I went backs and forwards with various different mug uh, supply companies, and they'd either stop coming back to me or they'd send me something that really wasn't good enough, because ultimately if I wanted to put something out there, I wanted it to be good quality, because essentially it was me everyone was seeing all the time, my name somehow, and it just wasn't working. And I remember having a conversation with one of the local shopkeepers and just saying, I don't think it's not going to work, because I just can't get this done. And we talked for ages just outside his shop, and he, at one point, he even offered me the money to buy the equipment myself. I mean, as it turned out, it was just really generous of him, and I didn't take him up on that, but it got me thinking, and I sort of sat down and did some sums and just sort of worked out exactly how many I'd have to sell if I bought the various bits of equipment just to get the money back, and that's all I thought about at that particular time. And the idea was these mugs were going to be sold in these local shops in this area, and that's what happened. And it went really well. We got lots of publicity, got in the local media, and so on. And obviously, I had then had this equipment. It seemed pointless not to use it. It had paid for itself just by doing this one mug design. There are lots of these other areas in Sheffield, so I started to expand into these other areas, and then that was getting me noticed by other people who were aware of the fact I could potentially make them mugs. So naturally, one of the things I did right from the beginning was create my own website and put them online for people to buy, because there's a great connection with people from the areas they were born in, and could buy them from further afield. So I did that, and I originally put them on Folksy, which was originally set in Sheffield, started in Sheffield, also based in London too, and they did okay. And one day I was just sort of having a look for my stuff. There was a few designs I've got on there, and I couldn't actually find my stuff myself by searching on it. And I thought, well, that's obviously quite a problem, isn't it? If I can't find it, how's anybody else going to find it? And I don't know quite what the issue was, whether it was something with their search engine or not, but I needed to put them somewhere where people could find them, obviously. And I was aware of Etsy too. Etsy is a US-based system, but is much bigger and also international. So I just moved them over there, and ever since it has been much better. I've obviously expanded into many other designs. I do work for all sorts of other people, all sorts of artists. I do them for them. I do work for shops in Sheffield, and my work has sold around the world now. So, and I think that has helped by moving on to Etsy. In terms of the branding, I knew from the beginning that I needed to. Sorry for the interruption. I've got my son trying to ring me on the phone. I knew I needed to do the branding myself so people would recognize what it was. And my original designs had the web address of my site on it, so that kind of worked there. But I didn't really have a great logo, and I wasn't necessarily utilizing all the space potentially. In the early days, I chatted to one of the local shopkeepers, and he said, why don't you print something on the bottom of the mugs? Because when two people tip them up to drink from them, you, they'll see what's on the bottom of the mug, as in, he said that was in the usual suspects. And I said, that's a fantastic idea, but I can't actually print on the bottom of the mugs. So, and I had in my mind about getting some stickers, but when you first start, everything's an expense, and it's just something you have to think, right, well, I've got to spend that much on getting so many labels, that adds extra to my cost. And in the big picture of things, it doesn't make a big deal, doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does when you're first starting. Every little thing adds up, and you can sort of get a bit carried away, and then you've suddenly got to make so many more mugs, for example, just to break even and stuff. And eventually I got to the stage where I could design some labels, and they now stick on the bottom of my mugs. My mugs, they can go through the dishwasher, and so can these stickers. It's just a little round sticker that sits on the bottom. It's got my email address, my web address, the name of the company, and it's got a QR code in the middle, which I don't think many people will scan it, but it's got the potential to do stuff in there in the future because it's a responsive one. I could change. At the moment, it just links to the website. I could change if it linked to, say, for example, a special offer thing. But I haven't really done much there. I know a lot more I could do on the branding side of things. At the moment, I've just literally designed some Christmas labels, which are tying to the mugs along with a chocolate coin with all the mugs I'm sending out at the moment. There's more besides, but it's just sort of getting to that stage. But I guess one of the most important things for me is I send a lot of my mugs out obviously via my Hermes, and they're all breakable. It's not covered by their uh, system, as I don't think it is by Royal Mail either. So it needed to be something where I could send them out and didn't break, because obviously if it breaks, it's no good. The customer's not going to be happy to receive a broken mug when they get there. And yes, I can replace it, but obviously, it sort of makes you think, oh right, that wasn't great, was it? Even if they do replace it and stuff, and every single one that gets broken obviously costs me money. Uh, so, I mean, I looked around at the different options. Generally, it boils down to either a box or a polystyrene container for mugs. Polystyrene containers are bulky for a start, so having 100 of them takes a whole lot more than 100 collapsible boxes that you assemble yourself. But so I eventually went down the route of the boxes. The mugs themselves are wrapped in a small plastic bag, then covered in bubble wrap, and then put inside a box and it fits fairly snugly. They have to go in a certain way that's fairly snugly so they don't move around. So when it's all sealed up, I can shake it and it's not moving. If it's going to move, it's much more likely to break. They're thick enough that if they get dropped, they're going to survive. And I've been going for just over a year now, and in that time I've only had 2 mugs break. So obviously there's something something's okay with them, and one of those was sent to Los Angeles. So that's obviously all right. In terms of expansion, I mean, as I said, I started this accidentally. I didn't go through many of the steps I already mentioned about planning and all sorts of that. I just sort of something that's evolved out of some other things I do. I have in mind a number of other things that I can move into and hopefully will move into. I guess now is one of my busiest times of the year because I do a lot of stock for shops, for other artists, and they all want to stock up now for Christmas. So I don't really have a massive amount of time to be trying stuff. I mean, I've done a few bits and bobs with things like money boxes, which are very much like a mug. They're very similar shape, very similar size and stuff. And I have got an order that's going out this week with some of them, and I've got a design of one of mine with them. But obviously, it makes sense to expand into things like water bottles, travel mugs. I've got the equipment. It's not too difficult to sort of move on from that. And some of my own designs as well originate from either digital designs I've created directly on the computer or from original photos of mine I've taken and then digitally enhanced. And I was just sort of started looking at, and I have a number of prints that I also do as well, which are just sort of beginning to get going as well. So So I think that's probably about enough from me.